Hello there, welcome back to the booth here at Pro Tour Dominaria. We're working our way right through the semifinals. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe, this is Luis Scott Vargas. It's our pleasure to bring you coverage of semifinal number 2 coming up right now in the feature match area. Owen Turtenwald versus Wyatt Darby. Let's head on down. Hello and welcome back to coverage here at Pro Tour Dominaria. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Luis Scott Vargas, and it is time for semifinal number 2. One of the two gentlemen you see seated in the feature match area will be making the finals of this Pro Tour. Will it be from the United States, Owen Turtenwald playing red-black aggro for Team Ultimate Guard. On the other side of the table, Wyatt Darby says, I don't need that black mana. It's going to play mono red aggro. We have a little bit of a different matchup than we saw in semifinal 1. Luis, how do things play out here on the version of red splashing black versus the not?
The version not splashing black, Wyatt's version, is playing Earthshaker Kenra is one of the main differences. You know, both players have Beaumont Courier, but Wyatt's a little bit more vulnerable to Chain Whirler. His Chain Whirlers are not as good as Owen's. That said, both decks are pretty capable of having fast starts, and both decks are capable of winning the game with 4 and 5 mana plays. Look at Wyatt's hand. He just has Hazoret and Rekindling Phoenix in hand, and he's going to win the game if he can land those cards and do some damage with them. In fact, he's playing the control role here. He's going to Lightning Strike, carry Zev, and try to set up his 4-drops.
Now, if you are the red-black aggro player like Owen is in this position, what does he gain by having access to black mana that Wyatt Darby doesn't, and what does he give up?
So what he gains is Scrap Heap Scrounger, which is a pretty potent tool, not even against just control, against aggro too. When your opponent passes with a Braid or Lightning Strike up and your 2-drop was a Scrap Heap Scrounger, you kind of blank their turn. Owen also gets Unlicensed Disintegration and Doomfall on the sideboard. What he gives up is a little bit of mana consistency. He's going to have some lands that come into play tap sometimes. If he draws both of his Ether Hubs, he won't be able to add too much colored mana with those. And I think in this head-to-head matchup, being mono red is generally a little stronger because the black cards don't really impact that much. That said, there's still differences in deck construction which make me think Owen has a good shot here. But just in general, I think in the battle of this matchup, you'd rather just be the one on 24 mountains.
Owen does send a shot across the bow of Wyatt Darby here. Heart of Kiran's going to get crewed and attack for 4, knocking him down to 16. But 2 attacks from Earthshaker Kenra have Owen Turtenwald also at 16. And boom, big power play here from Wyatt Darby. He lands a Rekindling Phoenix.
And here, Owen does not have his 4th land, so that's going to stop him from playing all the really strong and impactful cards here. I mean, a Chain Whirler still takes down the Earthshaker Kenra. Owen could actually even attack with the Heart of Kiran first, and if Wyatt blocks, Chain Whirler will clean up the Elemental token and the Earthshaker. So decent chance Owen wants to do that. He could also just attack with the Scrounger, not even offer up the trade. But getting the extra damage in seems better. Oh, this is going to work out nicely for Owen.
So the Goblin Chain Whirler follow-up play after the trade-off Rekindling Phoenix means that Wyatt Darby just lost his Rekindling Phoenix. It's not coming back now.
Yeah, he got to trade it for the Heart of Kiran, but this turn is actually pretty big. Drawing Shock for Wyatt Darby means he can actually attack with Hazoret this turn if he wants. He can shock the Scrap Heap Scrounger or just shock Owen directly and send in Hazoret the Fervent.
Certainly wants to do one of those options. And he's going to just go upstairs. Owen Turtenwald's going to fall to 14, and now is going to get hit for 5 unless he wants to chump block with the Goblin Chain Whirler.
And what's so good about that for Wyatt is he's got a Lightning Strike left in hand. So next turn, if Owen takes it this turn, falls to 9. Next turn, if Owen takes Hazoret again, he falls to 4, and Lightning Strike plus Hazoret's ability to deal the last 5 points of damage.
Irrelevant what Wyatt draws in that scenario. But at the same time, it's hard to imagine Owen Turtenwald winning this game if he chump blocks with a Chain Whirler, right? I mean, he's kind of in one of those situations where no way out, potentially?
It's hard, because if he chump blocks with Chain Whirler, then he's really giving up racing, but you can't kill Hazoret, so you kind of have to race. Without drawing a fourth land, Owen was going to have a really hard time either way here.
And he did, in fact, miss on that land drop once again. Owen Turtenwald falling further and further behind, trying to make a race out of it. Attacks for 3, knocks Wyatt down. I guess we have him at 12 now, and there is a follow-up Scrap Heap Scrounger.
And Wyatt also, at some point, can get that Earthshaker Kenra back out of his graveyard. We'll see if that ends up coming to that.
Wyatt does seem to have it all going on at this point.
And he does need to do something here in order to make it so his Hazoret can attack. We've seen Hazoret.
Well, it's the semifinals of the Pro Tour.
Yeah, I guess that's just a tradition. We've seen, you know, Hazoret does make you play with your hand face up in that regard.
Soulscar Mage, he decides, would better be served as just 2 damage going upstairs rather than a creature on the battlefield. And he does have Owen Turtenwald down to just 7 life with lethal in hand in conjunction with another attack from Hazoret. So minimum requirement for Owen Turtenwald is to put a blocker out. And that's just to hang on.
Owen drew an Ether Hub, so he's going to be able to play a card, but actually none of his cards can block.
That's right. Chandra, Torch of Defiance, not a clean answer.
He can't block with Hazoret either. He's got too many cards in hand.
Unreal.
Owen's actually just straight up dead to this Hazoret. He's actually just a couple points of damage short because of the Lightning Strike, but...
And that's going to put him down to 4. And that means that Owen knows that the writing's on the wall, and all Wyatt Darby has to do is send Hazoret into the red zone, and game 1 in quick fashion goes to Wyatt Darby. This is an aggressive matchup, and these games will be quick. Don't walk too far from your computer in between because, boy, this one could be over quickly as Wyatt Darby on the All Mountains deck takes down game number 1 from Owen Turtenwald, one of the best players in our game. And he's got to have his hands full here with Wyatt Darby. We'll be back right after these messages.
Show off your love of Magic the Gathering with premium statues from Prime One Studios. Each figure stands 28 inches tall and is carefully sculpted in high-quality resin. Pre-order yours today at SideshowCollectibles.com.
Back to the feature match area here in Richmond, Virginia. Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Luis Scott Vargas. It is Pro Tour Sunday. We're in semifinal number 2, Owen Turtenwald versus Wyatt Darby. Owen Turtenwald finds himself down a game to Wyatt, who has been a cool character in the feature match area, dispatching of Thomas Hendrickson, now up a game over Owen. Owen's going to be on the play for this game, and I will remind you once again that we are still pre-sideboarded here in game number 2. Mountains for each player kicks things off.
It's kind of funny when it used to be that if you played against a red deck and they missed their turn 1 drop, you're like, oh, wow, I got away with it. You know, they didn't have one of their 1 drops. But now if you have a chain roller in your hand and they don't play a 1 drop, you're just like, kind of wish you had played a Bowmark card on turn 1. I wanted that free value.
Indeed. Yeah, these matchups have gotten much more grindy as time has gone on, and they tend to get more expensive as well as the 4 and 5 mana spells take over. You'll especially see that after we're done with sideboarding, most likely. No answer, it looks like, for Karizev from Turtenwald as he plays land number 3 and has to settle for a Chain Whirler here.
And Owen kept a slow hand, no 1s or 2s, but looks like he's got double Chandra on deck. So, you know, this Chain Whirler plus the Chandra is going to mean that he's got a lot of mid-game potential.
This is a big turn.
And here's where Earthshaker kind of is really not looking great. Just does not interact well on either side with the Goblin Chain Whirler. So, decent chance that Darby just wants to go ahead and braid down the Chain Whirler. You can attack in for 3.
It sets up Turtenwald for a nice Chandra, doesn't it?
Ragavan is a free block for the Chain Whirler because of first strike. You don't even have to worry if the opponent has anything else.
18.
Darby's decided to value getting his own copy of Goblin Chain Whirler down right away higher than getting rid of Owen's.
And one good reason to do that is that you're kind of trading damage for damage because maybe you get hit by the Chain Whirler this turn. But on the other hand, you're the more aggressive deck. Wyatt's deck is a little bit more aggressive than Owen's, so he'd rather have a more mana-efficient turn 4 where maybe he can play a Braid plus Earthshaker Kenra and crack in for 8 points of damage. Here, Chandra can minus to kill the Chain Whirler, but then you know you're losing Chandra.
That's right.
Minus.
And he could minus to kill Karizev, but it's precarious situation here because another Chain Whirler or any removal spell would mean Chandra's gone.
Yeah, he also could minus kill Karizev and then just kind of hope that you end up not losing your Chain Whirler this turn. But unfortunately for Owen, he's fairly likely to lose a Chain Whirler here.
Yeah, it looks like the line may just be kill Chain Whirler, play Earthshaker Kenra, use Earthshaker to take down Chandra, and you take 3. It's a lot of damage represented on the board. Darby examining his options here, but all of a sudden starting to look good early. There's an Earthshaker, and there's that Abrade. And just as we described a second ago, that's going to be Turtenwald down to 15, and Chandra saying, I've had enough of this, and she's out of here, no more loyalty.
And Chandra's a great card, but she needs a little bit of backup. She's not one of those planeswalkers that really will solve it all by herself. Like right now, Owen can play Chandra, add mana, and play PNLR, and that provides a couple blockers, but at that point, Earthshaker Kenra starts to become a little more threatening. The second Kenra can make it so one of Owen's creatures can't block. So here, Owen doesn't even play the Chandra.
No.
He doesn't even have much else to do, and he's choosing to play a 3-drop instead of play a Chandra here. This does open the door for him to cycle Canyon Slough, which is nice, because that can set up a turn of double spell with Chandra.
Wyatt Darby, conditioned perhaps against the Goblin Chain Whirler, was already picking up that Earthshaker Kenra after he saw Owen tap 3 lands. But it does get to survive for at least another turn.
Token can't block. Sure.
So Earthshaker Kenra number 2 says the token can't block, and Shock's going to take care of PNLR. And once again, Wyatt Darby out on the front foot. And look at this turn from him.
Owen's
Plays
gonna need a Chain
3
Whirler
spells.
Here. Yeah.
Chain Whirler looks pretty decent. I don't think he's found one, though.
No, and Owen drawing 2 lands off the cycle plus the draw step means that he can play Chandra, he can kill the Chain Whirler, but he's still very much behind. And Wyatt's last card is a Lightning Strike.
Wow, this draw from Wyatt Darby has been perfect. He played 3 spells last turn. And there's Chandra Torch of Defiance to kill the Chain Whirler. But Owen Turtenwald's defenses are at a minimum. Wyatt Darby finds a mountain off the top of his library. Not what he wanted to see there, but still. Lightning Strike in hand. Effectively 6 power on the battlefield.
Well, one good thing about Mountain is that it leaves him 1 mana away from eternalizing Earthshaker Kenra if one were to trade off this turn. The question now is, how much damage do you want to point at Chandra versus how much do you want to point at Owen? Because if you're attacking Owen with everything, you can just attack Owen with all 3 of your creatures. Owen blocks Kenra with a token, and you can Lightning Strike Owen and then put him down to 1. But this seems a lot more efficient because it lets you kill Chandra without worrying about extra damage.
I think he's just ignoring Chandra here, Luis.
Wow, he just put Owen down to 2 instead.
Yeah. He just said, look, what are you going to do plus Chandra? That's the worst thing that you can do. Now, if he finds a Chain Whirler with it, he's going to feel like, well, that was actually pretty bad.
Prophetic.
Hello there. Goblin Chain Whirler off of the Chandra activation. He played with fire. He got a little burn there.
Oh, yeah. But those are the Eternalize on Kenra means any land also does the trick.
How about that one?
Sure.
Urshiker Kenra comes back. And it looks like he's still going to be able to push through for lethal damage. So 2 quick games are done in our second semifinal match. And that is Wyatt Darby up 2-0 over, must be said, the toughest player left in the field, Owen Turtenwald. And that means it's time to move on to sideboards here between our 2 now. In our last match, it was a 75-card mirror, but we do have 2 different decks here. Let's take a look at Owen Turtenwald's red-black aggro sideboard. What stands out, Luis?
The 5 1-mana removal spells and the Abrade. The 2 Chandra's Defeat, 3 Magma Spray, and Abrade really are what Owen is looking for. Owen just wants to get these Bomat Curs out of his deck and get Magma Sprays in. So I believe Owen improves quite a bit more post-board than Darby's going to. Just the cheap removal combined with the more powerful high-end does put Owen in quite a good spot.
And on the other side of the battlefield, one of the things that you tend to give up by deciding to play a mono-colored deck is the ability to have a flexible sideboard. And you see not that many options even here for Wyatt Darby. What can he bring in to help shore up this matchup?
He can also go bigger. 3 Chandra's Defeat, 3 Glorybringer, 2 Harvester, and potentially some number of Chandras. All go quite nicely for post-board games here. So Wyatt is definitely prepared as well. I expect this to be pretty close. But
can he go really big and bring in Fight with Fire?
I don't think that's going to end up
Ultra
being where we
big?
want to be. The fact that Fight with Fire interacts poorly against Chandra and Rekindling Phoenix and Hazoret is just too much.
Yeah. That dream's dead for me? Okay.
Yeah. I do think that Wyatt is still going to want to cut down on some of the aggressive creatures and not get Chain Whirler too hard, especially once he's... I mean, they have deck lists at this point in the tournament. He sees a bunch of Magma Sprays, and yeah, I can actually see him just taking out Bomat Curs over on the other screen.
Yeah. Yeah, he's unloading a lot. And we'll see how he wants to go. He can trim here or there, maybe perhaps not a fundamental change to his deck, but he can certainly try to maximize against cards like Goblin Chain Whirler. And boy, all of a sudden, Wyatt Darby is up 2-0 against Owen Turtenwald, and Owen has his back against the wall. He is going to have to win 3 sideboarded games in a row if he's going to make it to the Pro Tour Finals again.
Has anyone come back from an 0-2 deficit?
I don't know.
Yeah, a lot of people actually, but okay. It is hard.
I'm glad you knew the answer. So, have you ever done it?
Yeah, my first 2 top 8 matches. Granted, that was a very long time ago. I don't even remember what it feels like
only
playing
10
top
years
8
ago.
at this point.
Your last top 8 was not that long ago. Your first top 8 was a while ago. I'll give you that one.
Karn couldn't quite give me that this weekend. We all played the blue-green Karn deck. It was not as good as we had hoped, but it was pretty fun. Sam Party went 7-3. Ivan Flock went 7-3. I went 6-4. The rest of my teammates, well, they did some side drafting on day 2.
I think they're doing side drafting right now as well. No teammates to root for in the top 8, but certainly some friends.
True. And Owen is a former teammate. He's a Channel Fireball alumni.
Indeed.
Though our paths separated quite some time ago at this point.
Owen, of course, part of the core of that Pantheon testing group. He plays for Team Ultimate Guard.
Yep, they're number 1 in the team series right now by a significant margin. In fact,
they're looking good.
So much so that we're looking at, well, what do we need to do to get second?
Game number 3 underway here in our second semifinal match. If you're just joining us, Owen Turtenwald's up against the wall. He's down 2-0 against Mono Red from Wyatt Darby. And he's got the one drop here, the Soul Scar Mage, to kick things off as Turtenwald decides how he wants to progress. Nothing.
Combat. No blocks. No effects. 1. 19.
Combat, attacks, no blocks, no effects.
End of turn.
Take 1. Lightning Strike does kill 1 Soul Scar Mage on end step.
Both players shaping up to have a pretty quick Hazoret here. And it'll be interesting. I mean, the person on the play generally has a big edge in that sort of game because Hazoret just attacks first on the play so much more often. You have fewer cards and just your turn ahead.
Yeah, you get that life deficit, and then the activated ability from Hazoret can win you the game.
Though Wyatt has Soulscar Mage in play, and as we saw earlier in the Carvalho match, Soulscar Mage plus burn spells can take down Hazoret. Though Owen drew a Glorybringer, so I like Owen's chances here.
There's land number 4 for Hazoret, but he still has 3 cards left in his hand, so no attacking or blocking, though Owen has managed the board by killing one of the Soulscar Mages, meaning he's only facing down 1 power currently.
Feel free.
This is likely to be a question about Soulscar Mage Hazoret interactions,
That's right.
if I were to guess.
You can see Hazoret can't attack or block unless you have 1 or fewer cards in hand, but of course Hazoret's just sitting there
Cards in hand, please.
as a creature.
So if Owen plays Glorybringer next turn, he won't be able to attack with Hazoret. So he'll drop to 4, play a land down to 3, play Glorybringer, be at 2 cards. That said, he would have a Glorybringer in play. That's usually pretty good as well.
Indeed.
1. 16.
In the meantime, Wyatt's going to attack for 1 damage, knocking Turtenwald down to 16 life.
I think he's just going to play his own Hazoret.
And now we have Hazoret's facing off, though neither of them able to get into combat. Land off the top of the library for Turtenwald.
Yeah, that is not what he was looking for. He does get to Glorybringer here, but it does just take down Soulscar Mage, and I actually don't think this is horrible for Wyatt Darby, despite the fact that he just got Glorybringered.
Your turn.
Yeah, normally that's a big turning point in a match, or excuse me, in a game between these two types of decks, because Glorybringer represents such a huge threat while also killing something on the other side. Getting rid of the second Soulscar Mage could be really important here, as it makes Owen Turtenwald's Hazoret that much more likely to survive. And right when I say that, Wyatt plays the 3rd Soulscar Mage of the game, and look at this. He has a Braid. That's to get him down to 1 card. Now, on the other side of the table, Hazoret the Fervent still alive, but with 3 -1/-1 counters, he's down just 2-1.
Owen now is on all lands, but thanks to Hazoret's second ability, he will be able to get down to 1 card in hand. And Wyatt isn't going to be able to attack past Hazoret with his own, because Hazoret's still indestructible, even though Owen's has been shrunk. So we've got a pretty close game here.
Owen cycles into Chandra. He does have an untapped land as well.
I think Owen has pulled ahead, but it all hinges on that Hazoret living. If Wyatt draws another burn spell and uses Soulscar Mage,
Can he just kill the Soulscar Mage?
then he gets back into it. But Owen is going to kind of prevent that play by just killing the Soulscar Mage. So.
Yeah. That was the 3rd one, by the way.
Yeah.
So
And 1 card. 1.
unlikely for Wyatt to be able to re-up on that. And that could easily...
It's got a handful of Hazorets.
He does. Well, the good news is the one on the board does fine work at getting rid of the ones in the hand. But the bad news for Wyatt Darby is that even though he put a big dent in Hazoret there with the 3 counters, she's still indestructible and still able to block. Pia Nalar off the top of the library for Turtenwald. He can throw a land at Wyatt Darby and cast Pia Nalar's turn if he wants. And look at this, he's going to get an option on what the top card is with Chandra as well. It's another Hazoret. Does he want to replace?
He could give his Hazoret +3/+3. That doesn't actually do much, because the Hazorets are kind of just staring at each other at this point.
Right.
With Glorybringer sailing overhead.
And in the meantime, so Owen says, I'd rather just have the 2 damage and keep my current Hazoret on the battlefield and all my mana available. There's Pia Nalar. Now he has 5 power in the air.
9.
Darby is dumping cards out of his hand because he's Hazoret flooded here.
A chain roller is a turn too late because Chandra will now survive.
This one was very, very close, and it looks so based on the life totals, but if you take a snapshot of the board state, it's not hard to figure out who's ahead on board with just Hazoret the Fervent for Wyatt Darby, while Owen Turtenwald has Planeswalker plus Dragon plus his own Hazoret, and then another 2 creatures as well. There's a Chain Whirler. Now that will kill the Thopter, as well as bring Chandra down to just 1 loyalty. A little awkward here for Darby, though.
He's not really making much forward progress, and Owen's activating a Planeswalker and attacking with a Glorybringer every turn, so...
4, 5, 6. He's going to get him to 1 here if you'd like.
I don't know that Darby has a good out here.
Exile my top card.
Let's take a look. 7, 6, 5.
Owen could cast the Soulscar Mage, and then if everything goes according to plan, he could
He can
Glorybringer down the Hazoret.
But you can just kill him here, right?
Combat.
4 plus the Hazoret activation.
He can. And that's going to end up being better, but he did have an option in case his Glorybringer died, in which case I guess the Soulscar Mage wouldn't have been that great either. But it would get him more material onto the board.
Owen Turtenwald gets that monkey off his back. Win number 1 for him in our second semifinal.
My people have my cards.
And the sideboards are coming back. We will often have our sideline reporter grab the sideboard so that we can get information here in the booth about how people have sideboarded. That game actually ended up going pretty quickly. It takes a few minutes to kind of reverse engineer which cards came in and which cards came out. And right as I say that, Tim shows up and he's going to let us know what that is. We'll actually touch on that right before the next game starts, though. Let's take a look at Hazoret the Fervent. At one time considered the best card in Standard, and well, she's still pretty darn good.
Yeah, and that unkillable in red mirror matches largely is true. Soulscar Mage has a thing or two to say about that. That does give the red decks an out to kill Hazoret, but for the most part, she is not able to be removed from the battlefield. And she is, you know, a reward for being aggressive, for curving out. She's actually at odds with the way the current red decks are built. You see a lot more Glorybringers and Chandras, which really don't combine well with Hazoret. But Hazoret's power is just so high that, you know, you see the Pantheon list of red-black played Hazoret and Glorybringer and Chandra all in the main deck. And used to be that Hazoret would be the only card in your deck that costs 4 or more. That's just no longer the case.
Yeah, a lot of competition at that 4 and 5 mana slot. I mean, just here in the top 8 so far, we've seen Rekindling Phoenix, Hazoret, we've seen Chandra, we've seen Siege Gang Commander, and Glorybringer. Lots of expensive cards out of the red decks these days. And while Hazoret the Fervent perhaps isn't the #1 option, she's still in the mix for sure. And that was the card of the game, last game, no doubt about it. So Owen Turtenwald, you saw that wiping his brow at the end of the end of the game there.
You're in less than 30 minutes. It was not looking good. Yeah, that was kind of a... I feel like there's a little bit of good variance on my end in those first 2 games.
Now they're getting chatty down there.
Nothing personal, but I'm not going to touch
Wyatt Darby is chatting him up.
Yeah, and see, a grip full of Beaumont Curs. Wyatt did, in fact, take out a bunch of one-casting cost spells, Shocks and Beaumont Curs and On-Crop Crashers for expensive spells. Chandra's Defeats, Glorybringers, and Aethersphere Harvesters, though notably no Chandras.
Okay. And on the other side for Owen, what kind of a... You were predicting a pretty drastic game plan change from him.
Yeah, he took out his Beaumont Curs as well, and Heart of Kiran plus Chandra, so he only has 1 Chandra in his main deck right now. And then as 1 copy of Unlicensed Disintegration for all the cheap removal, the 5 removal, 1 cost removal spells plus a Braid, plus a couple Rekindling Phoenix, a Glorybringer, and a Doomfall. So Owen kind of going for a more controlling version. And Chandra, despite being quite good, does not match up all that well against Glorybringer and Chain Whirler. Like, she can take them down, but on the flip side, they both kind of have a haste effect that makes it protecting Chandra a little bit more difficult.
All right, decks presented. Examining openers. Now this game, it's worth noting here, could be the one that puts Wyatt into the finals. He just needs to win one of the next two, where Owen is forced to win back-to-back games.
Yeah, and Owen's first two lands are going to come into play tapped under his current system. He's got 2 Dragon Skull Summits, but other than that, it looks like a fine hand, and he does have enough cheap interaction that he can...
He has kept his hand, and so has Wyatt. So we are underway. No one drop from Wyatt, not a surprise. Only Soulscar Mage is left. Interesting, Owen actually does find a spell he can cast with Chandra's Defeat for next turn.
18.
Yeah, and he's likely going to be priced into doing so, killing the Goblin Chain Whirler. Things are going to can go south very quickly for Owen here if he misses his 3rd land drop.
Combat. No blocks. No effects.
And it looks like he's going to have to just take the Earthshaker Kenra out here with the Chandra's Defeat. And that means that this Chain Whirler is going to survive the turn. And this is a big draw step for Turtenwald. He finds a mountain.
All right, so this will get him on the board here. He's still likely to just play a removal spell this turn, though. If he wants, he can play Scrap Heap Scrounger and leave up Chandra's Defeat for the Chain Whirler. He could also just play one of his 2 mana plays on the Chain Whirler instead.
He's decided to leave up a Braid and Chandra's Defeat, or Lightning Strike and Chandra's Defeat if needed. It's going to be Lightning Strike to kill the Chain Whirler. Lots of removal in hand for Turtenwald. Finding that land very important as he marches his way up. It looks like what he's trying to do is set up a turn where he can kill whatever this is, which he can't, and then play Chandra if he hits an untapped land, which he did. 3 cards left in hand for Darby.
And they're not that cheap. Glorybringer, a Braid, and Aethersphere Harvester. Darby really needs to draw a land this turn, because if he draws lands, he can play 2 cards on his next turn.
There she is, Chandra, Torch of Defiance. Is he going to make mana or plus?
Mana.
Or excuse me, or look at a card.
All right, so
both plus. He's going to make mana, play a Scrounger, but there's no blockers. Is it a land for Darby?
it's not. So he's not going to get to attack with Chandra this or Hazoret this turn, which means Chandra's going to survive, and that's a big win for Owen. Owen's still facing down a Hazoret, but getting to untap with Chandra is a huge game.
Cards, please. 3.
3 cards left for Turtenwald. 4 in hand for Darby, though they're somehow not what he wants at this point. Carry Zev, pass the turn back, and Owen Turtenwald can breathe at least a little bit of relief at getting a chance to untap with Chandra. He draws his 4th copy of Dragon Skull Summit. His mana base looks just about perfect from here.
Yeah, a mountain enabling 4 summits is kind of nice.
He has the active Chandra that he can use. What else does he have as far as options goes? A Glorybringer.
And a Braid, as well as a Chandra's Defeat. So
Glorybringer. Attack.
But instead, he's going to take the fight right to Wyatt Darby and say, I'm going to hit you for 7. Darby says, no, sir, I've got an Abrade to destroy your Scrap Heap Scrounger. There's a land off the top for Darby. Now he should be able to attack, right?
yeah, now he's going to be able to attack. He can either play the Harvester or he can just play Glorybringer. And Glorybringers can't kill each other, not non-dragon, but they can attack for 4 in the air because they are a 4/4 flying haste. So I suspect Chandra's... Oh, Darby's just going to ignore Chandra as he is wont to do.
2-turn clock.
And then just put Owen on a very fast clock. Owen really looking for a Soulscar Mage.
To help deal with Hazoret.
Because then he could Chandra's Defeat down the Hazoret, put 5 -1/-1 counters on it.
Let's see what he finds. This is a big one for Owen Turtenwald. It's a mountain. You take 2. But that was a massive swing for Wyatt Darby last turn. Attacked for 9.
And Owen's actually having a really hard time with this Hazoret here. Because Owen can attack back for 4, put Wyatt Darby to 10. But he can kill the Glorybringer. He's got the Chandra's Defeat. But Hazoret is just going to keep hitting Owen, and there's not much he can do about it right now. He can chump with his Glorybringer.
Oof.
The problem is if Owen takes 1 more hit from Hazoret, then he now is kind of committed to dying in 2 turns to Hazoret's shock ability.
Yeah, no matter what it is that Wyatt were to find. And look at this. Earthshaker Kenra says Glorybringer can't block. Couldn't anyway. It was tapped. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Is this lethal?
It is. Owen had Chandra's defeat down one of the 4/4s, but he's going to take 9 points of damage.
And that's going to do it. Wyatt Darby defeats Owen Turtenwald, dispatching him here in semifinal number 2 and securing his slot in the finals. I tell you what, Wyatt's been a cool customer down in the feature match area, but you caught on that camera just a little bit of a little sigh of relief there from Wyatt, and now finally a smile because he knows what a tough customer he just defeated. Owen Turtenwald, really one of the few players you want to see across from the battlefield when you sit down here at the Pro Tour level, especially on a Pro Tour Sunday. So Owen's going to have to settle for a semifinal finish and another top 8 on his already Hall of Fame resume, as it's Wyatt Darby who's going to meet Gonçalo Pinto in the finals. Now, we're going to take a short break and then let Rich and the crew set it up at the news desk, but don't go anywhere because this one could be quick. We'll be back right after these messages.
Looking for a challenge? Magic Online offers monthly limited and constructed events which lead to the yearly Magic Online Championship. Download Magic Online at mtgo.com and start earning the points you need to enter.
Hello, welcome back to the news desk. Maria Bertholdi, Rich Hagan, Simon Gertzen, and BDM is on the floor with Wyatt Darby.
Thanks, Maria. Just one more match in Pro Tour Dominaria before a name gets added to that trophy. Will it be Wyatt Darby? He already has had something renamed this weekend. I understand there's a Facebook group called the Wyatt Darby Fan Club that's going on right now.
Yeah, so originally it's the Midwest Tournament Updater, where everyone, tells about their PPTQ results, and at the last RPTQ I was doing well. A lot of people started asking and looking for my status, and someone jokingly said, well, this isn't the Wyatt Darby Fan Club. So I guess temporarily at least it is, and I'm just really so happy for all the support and all the love I've gotten. You guys are the best. Like, I can't say enough about how great my friends are.
Now, I've talked about this with you. You're playing against Owen Turtenwald. This is the Goliath. You are certainly cast in the role of David here. What do you do to keep yourself centered playing on such a big stage?
I just try and look at the cards. He could be anyone. He's going to be a masterful random opponent. I wouldn't expect him to give me any percentage points or any edges, and I don't really think he did. But yeah, I just tried and played my game, kind of not get in my own head, and just attack with hazard a bunch.
Attacking with hazard a bunch. Got a couple more matches ahead of you. You're going to play against GONÇALO PUNTO. Again, it's that red-black matchup against this mono-red deck. You're feeling pretty good about the decision for just one color, all mountains?
Yeah, untapped lands are fantastic. And this was all I was playing on Magic Online when I was testing. So I've gotten the reps in. I feel very comfortable kind of navigating in a lot of the different situations. So yeah, I'm excited, and I think it should be a good match.
All right, lots on the line here. A Pro Tour title, a World Championship invite, a name on the trophy. Let's see what happens here at Pro Tour Dominaria.
Thanks so much, BDM. Well, we'll see if those untapped lands can get it done in our final. Let's take a look at our bracket to see where we've been today as we make our way towards the final here at Pro Tour Dominaria. So first things first, Kazuyuki Takimura on red-black mid-range versus Marcio Carvalho on red-black aggro. This is one of our closer matchups, Simon. It went to 5 games.
Yeah, this was really close. I think Kazuyuki was actually a bit favored here. He had those black removal spells. I still think it was a really good innovation to have Vraska's Contempt, but Marcio Carvalho just eked it out.
Then we had Ernest Lim playing Esper Control versus Gonçalo Pinto on red-black aggro. Of course, Gonçalo Pinto was the victor there. It was actually kind of surprising, I think at least a little bit. It was a 3-0 sweep.
Yeah, we didn't expect it to be that one-sided. We actually had, I think, Bomet Courier be the story of that game. Just too quick out of the gates for the control deck to handle.
Simon, is there hope for the Esper Control players? Because there was a narrative coming into the event that we were going to see endless Teferi mirrors with almost no win conditions, just putting themselves back in. What happened with that? Is it the death knell for Esper Control?
No, absolutely not. I talked again to blue-white players, I talked to blue-black control players, and they are happy with their red matchups. It's just, of course, you don't win all of your matches even if you have a good matchup.
Okay.
All right, Thomas Hendricks was our next quarterfinal versus Wyatt Darby. Of course, Wyatt Darby there taking the win 3-1 with his mono-red aggro. List versus red-black aggro. Again, managed to get the win through an hour of glory. Had another Hazoret in hand, Simon.
Yeah, that was pretty epic to watch. I actually was kind of surprised that Thomas Hendricks was so afraid of this matchup, but apparently rightfully so.
And then, of course, Owen Turtenwald versus Manuel Lenz, the Magic Online grinder, playing mono-red aggro, kind of with quotes around that mono-red there because he is playing Scrap Heap Scrounger versus red-black aggro from Owen Turtenwald. Owen Turtenwald swept that match.
Yeah, it made it look really easy. Goblin Chain Roller really putting on a show there.
Okay, so then the semi-finals, of course, we had the all-Portuguese matchup, Marcio Carvalho against Gonçalo Pinto, which looked in the end, it got a little bit scrappy at the very end there, points of damage here and there, but Gonçalo Pinto advanced. And then in the all-American semi-final, we've just seen Wyatt Darby advance to the final. So that's where we're left. Wyatt Darby against Gonçalo Pinto will be your championship match.
All right, but what about teams heading into Pro Tour 25th anniversary? It's going to be all about teams, and BDM is here with an update.
Well, with that loss by Owen Turtenwald, we now know all the point totals for the teams in the Pro Tour Team Series at the top of the standings. There you see Team Ultimate Guard, 153 total pro points. They are firmly on top of this race and in a great spot to play in the Pro Tour Team Series finals at the World Championship. And, you know, Owen Turtenwald, another great tournament, his 5th Pro Tour top 8. Reed Duke, who started the tournament 1-4, rattled off 11 straight wins to land in 15th place in this tournament. He was about as far back in the room as you could get and just swam all the way to the front of the pack. And then, you know, he gets them points, and John, of course, with a top 32 finish. Now, how are you, Latin? This was a team that was in 4th place. We talked to them earlier in the week. They were in 4th place coming in, and one of their stated goals for this event was getting into that top 2, climbing a little bit in the rankings. They managed to leapfrog 2 spots. They're in 2nd, and of course, Marcio Carvalho, a huge part of that with his top 8 performance this weekend. Connected Company, another team that jumps up in the standings. Musashi is a little bit of a disappointment for them. They were up in 2nd. This is a defending champion, and they did not have a great tournament. They fell a little bit here, and that's kind of a big deal. And then you know, you see Genesis, also another not so great tournament. Brad Nelson was not very happy with his results this weekend, and you see they've fallen out of the top 4 and fallen, I mean, just down to 5th. But when you're as good a team as Genesis with so many superstars on that team, that's very disappointing. And we got a little bit of a heartbreaker as you go a little further down in the standings. Let's take a look at the next set of teams. And right over here on tiebreakers in 17th place, there was a lot of people in the room sweating this tiebreaker math for Mass Drop East. Again, top 16 teams at the end of this tournament all get invites to play in the next Pro Tour in Minneapolis, which is a team Pro Tour. Players are going to be playing in 2 3-player teams. Everybody on your team gets an invite. 17th place means that Jarvis Wu is going to have to scrape together a few extra pro points along the way at the remaining GPs before that Pro Tour. It's a little bit of a heartbreaker in the team standings, but that's a look at what's going on here.
Okay, so it looks like when we come around to PT 25, realistically, Ultimate Guard are going to lock up one of the 2 slots for the World Championship Showdown. And then it'll be one of Haryu Latin, Connected Company, Musashi, or Genesis. So a repeat is still on for Musashi. Genesis could get back to the final. It's going to be all action all the time when we get to the Team Pro Tour in August. But we have one more match to come here from Pro Tour Dominaria. Let's settle in for the final. Maria, who are we going to look at first?
All right, let's meet Gonçalo Pinto. He's from Portugal, 32 years old. This is his 8th Pro Tour and first top 8. He's a digital marketing analyst, by the way. Packed a tie just in case he made it to the top 8.
Good answer.
Yes, a very smart move there. His proudest non-magic moment, by the way, is getting my dog and teaching him stuff, is what he said.
Okay.
4-2 record in booster draft, standard constructed record, 8-1-1. Let's take a look at his deck. Red, black, aggro. All right, Simon, what is this deck's plan?
This deck's plan is relatively straightforward. You have great creatures across the curve, starting with Bomat Courier, then you have Scrapheap Scrounger and Heart of Kiran, and of course on 3, Goblin Chainwhirler. That demolishes all the 1 toughness creatures on the opposing side of the board, and then you're not done. On turn 4, you have Rekindling Phoenix, Chandras, and even Glorybringer at the end of the curve.
One of the first things Luis Scott Vargas said to us this morning at the desk was looking at this list, Dragon Skull Summits, Canyon Slough, Ether Hub, Spire of Industry. This is a deck that is by no means as straightforward on its mana as the second deck we're going to see in a bit. How nervous would you be coming into a single match tournament, essentially, that you're down to? It's just a one-on-one. Where is this mana base as rock solid as he would like it to be?
It is very solid. We've seen less solid mana bases this weekend, but compared to a 24 Mountain mana base, it is significantly worse. It's significantly less consistent. There might be tapped lands disrupting his curve, and I would be a bit concerned, yes.
Okay, Maria, so that's Gonçalo Pinto. Who's he up against?
Wyatt Darby. Let's learn about Wyatt. He's 23 years old, from the United States, just 13 lifetime pro points, Pro Tour top 8s. Just this one. 6-0 undefeated in booster draft, which is a pretty sick record. Constructed 6-1-3. Let's take a look at his deck. Mono, red aggro, mountains, mountains, mountains as far as the eye can see. All right, Simon, how is this deck different from what we just saw?
Yeah, you heard it from him himself. Untapped lands are pretty good. The big difference here is the 4 Hazoret package. So this plays more like the red decks we've seen in the past, where you're really trying to empty your hand much quicker, at least 1 turn earlier. And I have to say, this Earthshaker Kenra, especially with its Eternalize ability, has really impressed me despite Goblin Chainroller being everywhere.
Yeah, how big of a liability is it to have these couriers? Is it to have these Kenras in here?
If you do the math, it's actually only these 7 creatures. And you don't always have multiple of those on the battlefield. Sometimes you can even anticipate the Goblin Chainroller coming down or extending into it because your opponent might not have it. I think Darby might have figured something out here.
I want to talk to you a little bit more about mana, because one thing that's sort of been a theme throughout the day is that at different points in the matches, players have been short of mana by a precise 1 amount. Now, it could be at different points along the curve, but we've seen players needing to get to 5, stranded there with Chandra, Torch of Defiance and Glorybringer, but can't find the 5th land. We've seen players at 5 looking to bring back Earthshaker Kenra at 6. Is this a game, because fundamentally, ironically, they're both pretty aggressive, are we going to see games go long and actually people hitting lands 5 and lands 6 are going to be really important?
Absolutely. Not only because of Eternalize, but also because you want to activate Hazoret. You will actually start sitting there with the Hazoret on defense if things are not going perfectly. And then you just throw your extra lands or your extra cards at the opponent, of course always threatening these big attacks with Hazoret, with Rekindling Phoenix. And this is kind of an interesting spot because you do have more reach than some of the other decks, some of the red-black decks even, with Hazoret, with Lightning Strike, with Shock.
I want to know about the black and the red-black aggro deck. So is access to stuff like Unlicensed Disintegration and Cut to Ribbons like that kind of a difference maker in this matchup? Or do you think the streamlined nature of this is just too good?
It makes a difference, but I don't think it makes a positive difference because these kind of effects, look at these creatures, you don't need destroy target creature for 3 mana. It doesn't even kill Hazoret, the biggest threat on the battlefield. So in fact, I think the removal of the black-red deck is somehow ill-positioned against mono red.
Historically, the Pro Tour has been a great sort of punctuation point on where Standard is, and then the wider world, the wider community goes and takes that first bullet point of Standard and moves with it. We're much later in the format now. Copenhagen is coming up next week, Simon. Where does Standard go next?
Well, right now, I wouldn't touch 1 toughness creatures. So it's once again this cycle of either you're not playing creatures or you're playing something that goes over the top of Goblin Chainroller.
Well, the players are ready. Buckle up. It's time for the finals here at Pro Tour Dominaria.